So I think that the Lemon Grove incident and Mendes versus Westminster are not as popular as Brown versus Board of Education for a couple of reasons. First, Brown versus Board of Education applied to all marginalized children. So that meant that African American children, Japanese children, Native American children, as well as Latinx children would be able to attend the same schools. And it was also decided on a federal level, which meant that the federal government demanded that schools be desegregated. And so if the schools didn't comply with that, they would be breaking federal law. So it had a broader reach and it applied to more people again. I also think that it's more popular because it's seen as this huge triumph for civil rights. And it definitely is. It is a big step, and that's not to be taken for granted. However, I think that Brown versus Board of Education was decided because it was in the best interest of the federal government to comply with what the civil rights movement was demanding, because in that way they would be able to keep their power and keep their influence. It's certainly a good thing, and that's not what I'm arguing against, but I think that it was done just because it was in their best interest and not due to some moral or ethical obligation. And I think that a lot of the issues are still incredibly relevant today. Maybe not just education, although that's definitely an issue, especially in schools in inner city areas, for lack of a better term, that are not as well funded as other schools. And those areas are largely, Black students or Mexican students. And so we continue to be marginalized in this way, but it's not as overt as it used to be. And I think that if we could apply this to other things, there's a Flint water crisis going on right now. And, I think that's a form of, not segregation exactly, but something like that, where people do not have access to the thing that they need while everybody else in the country does. And I think that these kinds of issues are not going away anytime soon because they're not being addressed. And yes.